Hello, welcome to Sunday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted, as ever, to be joined by the dream team, Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott. How's it going?
Yeah, you sound rough.
Listen, got a wee bit of the flu, guys, but listen, Hotline Live's on. Need to entertain the masses. Here I am. No chance I'm missing it.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Nah, that old chestnut, the flu. Many pints you have last night.
Aye, the Sunday morning flu, aye.
Aye, that one, aye.
Anyway, cheers. You're breaking up, guys, but maybe we should talk about football. How are you? You're both all right? No, aye, both good?
Yep, very well, thank you.
Good.
Wonderful. The one thing that I want to start on, guys, Scott, you've managed to pull off a brilliant interview with Jermaine Defoe. It's on Record Sport. The first part of it is on Record Sport online just now. For Rangers fans, it's essential reading. What did they have to say?
It was great, Daniel. Obviously, last night he was in the TV studio with Conor Coady doing the Channel 4's coverage of the Under-21s Euro Championship final. And it just occurred to me, obviously, at that point, the surely Rangers will come up in the conversation when they're off air, given that, as we reported a few weeks ago, Rangers are keen to try and get Conor Coady in. Russell Martin wants him to be one of his kind of key signings in this kind of summer overhaul of the squad. So Defoe was great. He spoke about, he was right away. He said Rangers did come up in the conversation. He's spoken to Conor Coady about it. Told him how big it is, the stature of the club. He did say Coady was well aware of how big it is, but as Defoe says, I don't think you can really appreciate it until you get to Glasgow, until you're in the old firm, until you're part of it. But according to Jermaine Defoe, Conor Coady's keen on the move. There's obviously things to sort out. With Leicester, he's still got a year left on his deal, and I'm sure Rangers are working on that at the moment. But the good news for fans is he's obviously aware, he's keen on the move, and Defoe has done a good PR job for Rangers, judging by what he said, just in terms of telling him what it's like to play up here. Because Defoe was only here for 18 months, but he really kind of got the Rangers bug and really bought into it. Obviously, it helps when you win a title. He was part of that Steven Gerrard squad in 2021. And he said that, it was only 18 months, but that title win is up there with anything he achieved in his career, according to Defoe. And a guy played the Premier League for so long, scored so many goals. Spurs, West Ham, went to a World Cup with England. But he really has such fond memories of Rangers, and I just think he's passed all that on to Conor Coady, which you think can only be good for Rangers and for the fans.
So you got the impression then from speaking to Jermaine Defoe, Scotty, that Conor Coady is right up for this, that it's just a matter of trying to put something down in front of him, that he's already sort of halfway in the door.
Yeah, I did, Jack. I mean, there was a great quote for Defoe where he said Cody's eyes lit up when he mentioned Rangers. And like the fact they're even talking about it suggests that it's some distance down the line, and there's a real possibility of it happening. I mean, I don't know whether Cody's involvement with the TV company in terms of covering the Euros, because he's been a co-commentator as well as a pundit. I don't know whether that's maybe held things up a wee bit in terms of Rangers trying to get the deal done. But obviously that's over with now, and I would expect I'd expect Rangers to kind of ramp it up this week in terms of trying to get the deal done. But certainly
much time to waste, do they?
No, they don't. Well, we've spoken about that a million times on here, when they need to get bodies in. And the key thing about Coady is he's 32, he's experienced, 10 caps for England. He's vocal, he's a leader, he's a captain. He's exactly the type of character that I think Rangers need. And in terms of Russell Martin, the type of character you would want in the door is one of your main signings. I mean, I think he's obviously worked with Kevin Thelwell before at Everton. Coady, so we'll know him. I think I'm right in saying Russell Martin's tried to get him before, or certainly showed an interest in him before at Southampton. So I think it'll be one of the key signings if Rangers can pull it off.
The comments are coming in, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, please. please do so. We'll try our best to read them out. Rangers Easy OK says, do you guys think the slow movement from Rangers so far is to do with the new PSR accounting year starting on Tuesday? Got a feeling it could ramp up this week with incomings. And Darren says, we definitely need more players. Can he beat TNS? Obviously referring to Rangers behind closed door friendly against the Welsh side yesterday. Apparently Liam Kelly, James Tavernier, Robin Propper were all playing, but the Welsh side won 1-0 at Auchenhowie. I mean, I know it's literally the early days of pre-season, but you don't want to be losing to TNS.
These games are all about fitness and conditioning. That's what managers tell you, especially when they're on the wrong end of a bad result, and that is a bad result for Rangers. So you just have to hope from the Rangers' perspective there that that's what it is just now, that Russell Martin's trying to implement his style. He'll be loading his players up with information and how he wants the game to be played. But yeah, I kind of take that view that it doesn't matter if it's pre-season or anything. That's an embarrassing result. So, clearly a lot of work to get done. And as I keep saying it, and I'm boring myself with it, but I keep coming back to the fact that I think things are going to get a little bit worse for Rangers before they can start to improve, before they get any better. That result would kind of highlight that, you know, the amount, the size of the task that's in front of Russell Martin and his recruitment team right now as they try and build something to be ready in time for the start of the season, which I think they're going to find really, really difficult. They're right up against it.
You know, it's brilliant, Jacko and Daniel. what other city in Europe or what other city in the world would get a reaction like that for a behind closed doors friendly against TNS?
I know.
Rangers fans are up in arms online talking about Tav was the worst player on the pitch. No other city in Europe with a behind closed doors friendly get such a reaction. It's brilliant. That's why we love it.
I was going to say,
but you can understand, Scott. You can understand it, can't you? Because, you know, Rangers fans are hoping for big things. They're really hoping that Russell Martin is the right man. A lot of them kind of suspected before his appointment was ratified that he wasn't really the guy they wanted. So he's coming at it from a difficult position already, Russell Martin. And when news leaks out from Auchenhowie that you've just been beat 1-0 at home by TNS, it just ramps it up a little bit. And I can totally get it, because the Rangers fans are sitting there crying out for something to get their teeth in terms of positivity and a cause to be excited ahead of the start of next season.
The thing is, they've got I mean, it sounds mad to say it, but I mean, they've got their first proper friendly on Sunday, a week away against Club Brugge at Ibrox. And I'm assuming Club Brugge are early in their pre-season as well, but I mean, they were one of the best teams I watched last season against Celtic at Parkhead. Right. So, and there'll obviously be a crowd turns up at Ibrox, Russell Martin's first official game, if you like. So, I think it was said at the EGM, there is no honeymoon period at Rangers or Celtic, and if he's under any illusions, which I'm sure he won't be, he'll find out on Sunday, friendly or no friendly, punters will turn up expecting to see something. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they would have hoped to have a few more signings to watch. Obviously, that's not happened, but there's still time this week to maybe get one or two in. Coady might be one of them, but no, it's going to ramp up pretty quickly for Russell Martin, because if you're getting dogs abuse for a behind closed doors friendly against a Welsh team, it's only going to get worse.
I think the key for him, Scott, even regardless if he brings in 4, 5, 6 players over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 days, which is highly unlikely, I think the key to Russell Martin kind of winning the hearts and minds of the supporters will be the style of play. If it's still the same old faces, we'll see if they're playing in a completely different style and you can see what they're trying to achieve and it looks the part. That'll be enough to bring them with them a little bit. But, there's no doubt about it. I keep going back to it. There's so much work to do this summer in terms of trying to weed out the guys that you know aren't going to be good enough, aren't going to be, the sort of calibre of player who will allow you to build a proper title challenge, and bring in ones who will be. And there's just so much work to do. I think I come back to really, really up against it already. It's a real shame. Russell Martin doesn't deserve that, but that's the hand he's been dealt, I'm afraid.
You're right, Jacko. Even the club put out a training video during the week. I don't know if you've watched it.
I did see that.
It was quite lengthy, and it was, to me, it showed more than what these training videos normally show in terms of the work that they were doing. And look, it was only a wee 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. But even in those wee clips, you could see actually what Russell Martin is renowned for and what he tries to do. There was obviously drills where, no, there was stuff at the start where it was a bit quick possession play, obviously, moving the ball quickly. But later on, when he went into the kind of game situation where it was all about kind of 4 attackers pressing, trying to win the ball back, and obviously for the defenders, it was about breaking that press and getting out. But you're looking at a squad of players he's working with, and it's like young kids and guys, like, with all due respect, like Kieran Defoe and others who, they're actively trying to get out. Now, this week, he'll get some international players back, the likes of Raskin and Dessers and others, Diomandi, I'm assuming, as well. So you think training would be obviously a bit better, it'd be a bit easier for him. But such a quick turnaround. No, he's only going to have these players a few days, and then they're straight into that friendly at the weekend. So as we've said all summer, time is against them. And as I say, it's only going to get, as Jacko said, it's only going to get tougher. Might need to get worse before it gets better.
Before we move on from Rangers completely, guys, one person that's been doing the rounds over the weekend has been David Murray, Keith. Someone that you have a how should I put it, interesting pass with.
Yeah.
And I think we can tease the audience by saying your column in tomorrow's Record Sport will be all about your relationship with David Murray. But can we give them a little preview ahead of that?
I'm just going to sit back and listen. I'm just going to sit back and listen to this part, Dan. You're right.
Get the popcorn. Get the popcorn.
Forward to this. On you go, Jacko.
Do you know what? We'll not spend too long on it, because I imagine that once the column's out there tomorrow, you'll probably want to spend a bit of time talking about it tomorrow night.
That's true.
Suffice to say, it's a reaction to the publication of Sir David Murray's book, autobiography, where he doubles down, doesn't he? He doubles down on the I was duped line in terms of selling the club to Craig White, and I don't think he should have done it. I really don't think he should still be clinging to that, because he wasn't duped. And if he was duped, then long before he actually signed over the documents, they had people coming to him from within Ibrox, directors, guys like Paul Murray, Alistair Johnson, John McClelland, all these guys coming to him, screaming at him, don't do this. This is going to be a financial catastrophe. So for David to still be clinging to that line, I think it's a bit unedifying. I think it damages the whole credibility of everything else he says, because that, I'm afraid, it might be his version of the truth, but it's impossible for anybody else to believe. So basically, I've written a column tomorrow, gone into a bit of detail about my own relationship with David Murray from when I was a young reporter coming through. He's a great guy to deal with. I've got a load of time for him, and I always did. I haven't spoken to him for going on 15 years now, and I don't think I ever will again. And you can read the column and you can draw your own conclusions from it. But he's a really interesting guy. I think he's let himself down with that one. And unfortunately for David, because I think he did so many good things over the years for Rangers. Unfortunately, the legacy that he's left with is, ultimately the decision to sell to Craig White. And the consequences of that, which he went into it with his eyes wide open, because everybody else could see it, and I'm damn sure David could as well. So yeah, well, look, as I said, column out tomorrow morning, and I'm sure we can go through it and discuss it at some length tomorrow night.
I can't wait to read that, Scott.
Same. Well, I was lucky enough to be working at the Daily Record around that time with Jacko on the sports desk and others, and it was a fascinating time, big learning curve for me, obviously being a lot younger, and it's a shame because I know obviously Keith did have a good relationship with Murray, and I know that during that time, and I don't mind saying this, I don't think any other journalist in the Scottish media did more to try and expose Craig White and what was happening at Rangers than
After
Jack
a poor start, Scott.
Aye, granted. Everybody's allowed a poor start. But no, seriously, so honestly, it was a fascinating time, and that's why, as I say, I can't wait to read the column. And it's just, it is a shame in terms of what's happened, because I'd love, obviously David Murray's doing a lot of interviews this week. I'd love nothing more than to watch Keith sit down with him and grill him and talk about everything that's happened. So it's a shame that might not happen.
That would have been a good Hotline Live guest, wouldn't it? David Murray.
Maybe he'll contact us and want to come on tomorrow. That'd be great.
He might reach out.
Aye, who knows?
I tell you who I do want on though, guys. I don't know if you watched. I'm not a big one for festivals and concerts and all that. So I couldn't be bothered. In fact, I look at Glastonbury and I think, oh, that's hell on earth for me. But I don't know if you watched it. Lewis Capaldi last night.
Half an hour.
I took from Friday. I watched half an hour. It was a half an hour set. And the reason that I bring that up is, Daniel, make it happen. Get Lewis Capaldi on here. If we can't get David Murray, get Lewis Capaldi. I think I'm becoming a fanboy of Lewis Capaldi.
Listen,
brilliant.
If you're watching, or any of his family's watching, get in touch. I've got to be honest, it does my head in a wee bit.
Okay, so did you not watch it? It was terrific. I
don't know.
You've got some stone heart or something. Blood in your veins.
It was good to see him back. The lad's done well.
Lovely.
We've got a lot of people asking about Celtic in the comments. John Aitken says, do you think Celtic will bring in another striker? Maida will sign a new deal. Do you think it'll be one or the other? Mark says, right lads, Celtic closing in on a Japanese defender. Any information on the striker they're looking at? And of course, he's referring to Haito Inamura, who, according to reports in Japan, is on the brink of becoming a Celtic player. He's a left-sided defender, I think centre half or left back.
Centre half, Dan. This is, and I know we had Burnsy on, and Burnsy and I had a little bit of a disagreement. I said to him that a priority for Brendan Rodgers this summer will be a left-sided centre back. He wants to find a partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers of a similar quality, and that was always, for me, going to be a key component in terms of what Celtic need to do in the transfer market this summer. Clearly, he's your man. And so that'll be fascinating, because if that was the target, and the target was to find a left-sided version of Cameron Carter-Vickers, someone equally reliable, equally robust, defensively solid, that could be a really important signing, and especially in terms of where, you know, Celtic really see their priority next season, and you know, making an imprint in the Champions League. I think that's where you need two central defenders of a similar level, and be fascinating to see if this is the guy, if he is the same level as Cameron Carter-Vickers, who has been exceptional.
Do you think it's a wee bit harsh on Liam Scales, Keith? Look, I thought really come on last year.
You know what I think about Liam Scales, and I was singing his praises throughout, and he's another one of these players that's just come on leaps and bounds under Brendan Rodgers. You can see that he's benefited from working with Brendan Rodgers, and you can see his development and his progression as a player. And yes, I was fulsome in my praise for Liam Scales, and I felt a bit sorry for him when he lost his place at points to Austin Trusty, because that was, you know, always looked as if it might be in the cards, but he knuckled down and he won his place back. So yeah, I do feel a bit sorry for him, but you know what it's like, injuries, suspensions. Liam Scales will still be a big player for Celtic, but I think the priority for Brendan Rodgers, one of his priorities, was to find somebody who, all things being equal and everybody being fit, would be a match and a partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers, and that's clearly what they think they're getting.
The fascinating thing about that, Keith, is that, and I'm not saying they shouldn't go and sign the Japanese boy, or they don't need somebody in that position, but as you say, if he comes in and just say is the first pick alongside Carter-Vickers, all of a sudden he's brilliant. I mean, it leaves them with Trusty, Scales, Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, Welsh. I mean, we talked about Rangers having to get rid of guys who are surplus to requirements. Celtic will then find themselves in that position as well. It's fascinating. I know there's been interest, obviously, in Lagerbielke and Nawrocki in particular. Stephen Welsh was out on loan at Mechelen in Belgium last season. So there is interest there, but it is going to be fascinating to see how that area of the squad shapes up and whether they can get these guys out and how Brendan Rodgers kind of views it getting into the start of the new season.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but you know, clearly, Scott, in terms of what Brendan Rodgers is trying to do is to improve his starting 11, to make Celtic better, to improve the quality. That's the words that he uses, and he's obviously looked at what the options are, and he's just not quite convinced that his left-sided centre half is as good as his right-sided centre half, and I would agree with him. Even though, as I said, you know, I'm very mindful of the progress that Liam Scales has made over the last 12 months in particular, but I couldn't disagree with that assessment.
Like I say, a lot of people asking about Celtic signing a striker. Jason kills two birds with one stone here with some of the things we want to talk about. He says he hopes Celtic sign Shankland. Now, we'll come on to Lawrence Shankland in a minute, but I just want to get your guys' take on, I mean, surely it's a no-brainer. Celtic will sign a striker in this transfer window.
I think they'll sign two, Daniel.
Okay.
I think it's an area, again, where Brendan Rodgers wants to bolster and increase his options. Celtic have got plenty of money. And it might be, you know, listen, Shankland one's not the worst idea in the world, is it? Pick him up for free and you know he's a goal scorer. We've talked about Majowski previously, being a guy that's got that, you know, ability to score goals and a track record in the Scottish Premier League, Premiership. So these guys would be always, I think something like that, but then I do think they'll push the boat out for a striker of significant value, and it'll cost a hefty fee. I expect to see that this summer. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Celtic signed two strikers over the course.
I'm not sure. I think maybe just one, Daniel. I think maybe one big striker signing to go in and complement Adam Ida, knowing that they've got Daiza Maeda, obviously, who finished the season as centre forward and very good. He was in that position as well. Obviously, it depends, I suppose, on how many wide players. Obviously, Nygren has come in. There's uncertainty over Kuhn. Jota's injured, so it'll be a kind of balancing act for Brendan Rodgers, especially with Maeda knowing that he can play in the two positions. But when I'm getting the young boy in for Fulham, and I don't think that's done yet, but it looks is that done yet, the young boy for Fulham?
Don't think it's been announced, no, Callum Osman.
Yeah, but it looks as if he's going to come in, which I said before, might kind of replace Johnny Kenny, who looks as if he's on his way out. But I think with Ida and one other big incoming striker, knowing that you've got Maeda and other wide players, obviously, I think that might be enough for them. Wouldn't it surprise me if Jacko's right, they signed two, but I think if they get one big first pick striker and then Brendan Rodgers will be pretty happy.
This is based on absolutely nothing, right? As most things are that I say on the show. But Keith, do you know who I've got a feeling Celtic's big signing, big striker signing will be?
Go on.
Evan Ferguson.
Well, we did discuss this previously, didn't we? And
we did.
You know, what I said, Daniel, is if it is, then I think Celtic fans will need to be patient, because that feels to me like very much an end of the window sort of a signing. I think a lot of things would have to fall into place, including, you know, a lack of Premier League interest in Evan Ferguson, and you could. He's not had a great last 12, 18 months, has he? But as we said, when he burst onto the scene at Brighton, he was phenomenal. And you looked at him, you thought, you've got the full package here in terms of your physicality, your power, pace, real natural finisher. He kind of looked like the young Irish version of Harry Kane. Mm-hmm. And he was, by the way, that wasn't a fanciful sort of comparison, because I think at one point during that season he was going goal for goal, just about with Harry Kane. And he just looked as if he was going to be the absolute full package. And as I said, I remember, you know, sort of feeling a bit jealous that he wasn't Scottish, because, you know, we've been crying out for exactly this sort of breakthrough striker. But it hasn't worked for him over the last while. That's a concern. It didn't work when he went on loan to West Ham. Now the question is there Premier League managers or clubs out there looking at him thinking, do you know what we could do with him? He could, he could light a fire here. Because if there is Premier League interest, it makes it really difficult for Celtic to compete. It's one of them that if it gets to the end of the window and he's not gone anywhere, there's been no transfer or loan deal or anything like that, at that point I think Celtic become, a significant player in that, and it would become possible to get him, perhaps initially on loan or whatever. As I said, I think if it is to be Ferguson, it's one of them that you're going to have to wait for a few weeks to find out.
I agree with everything you've said about Ferguson there, Jacko. But do you know? I think he's too similar to either. I don't think. I think Brendan Rodgers will be looking for a quicker, more nimble
Kyogo type.
Yeah, playing on the shoulder, the ability to run in behind. Aye, that kind of Kyogo type of striker. I think Ferguson and Ida. I'm not saying they're exactly the same player. They've got their own attributes, but I think they'd be too similar to get into that Celtic squad together. I think we either up there, Brendan Rodgers will be looking for something different. I might be wrong, and by the way, as I say, I agree with everything you've said about Ferguson. When he came through at Brighton, I mean, my God, he looked like an absolute world beater. So if you'd have said then Celtic might have the chance to get him at some point, you'd have bitten their hand off. But it obviously hasn't gone right for him for whatever reason the last year, 18 months. And right now, is he any better than Adam Ida? Probably not. And as I say, I think they're quite similar in how they play. So I think Celtic will look for something a bit different, more in the Kyogo mould.
Yeah, to mix up the options a little bit. You might be right, Scott. But I'm telling you now, if you did get the chance to get him on loan at the end of the window, it would be
just take him anyway.
Well, I think it'd be very hard not to, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The Bucky Trucker there saying Celtic won't take Ferguson. Apart from Ida, we won't take another loan without a good chance of buying the player. His wages are far too high. And you called it there, Keith, when I said they might sign him. I do think it could be on loan towards the end of the window. He's Celtic daft. Let's see what happens, I guess. We're getting a lot of comments, though, a lot of questions on Lawrence Shankland, as I mentioned that a few minutes ago. Bernie says, has Shankland left Hearts? I mean, do either of you guys have a bit of an update on Shankland? What is the latest?
As far as I'm concerned, his contract will officially expire. What's the date today?
Today's the 29th.
Right, okay, tomorrow. And by then, midnight, something like that. At which point he has officially left Hearts and is a free agent. The question, of course, is can Hearts persuade him to sign a new deal to start all over again with the club? Clearly, the indications are that Hearts have gone to their maximum, and they're not for budging on it. They feel they have made an offer which, would, I think, make Lawrence Shankland the highest paid player at the club, obviously. But they feel that they've done their bit. They've basically put every last chip on the table for Lawrence Shankland, and he's not yet decided that it's acceptable. I think that's probably caused a little bit of frustration with Hearts, but it is where it is. It's now a question of, does Lawrence Shankland and his advisors come back and say, look, great, we'll take that, or do they think there's a better deal for them elsewhere? And I know that Scott was through seeing Derek McInnes last week. I don't know if you've got any, more updates than that on it, Scott.
No, really, just pretty much what you've said, Jack. I mean, I do think Hearts have pushed the boat out, and I think Derek McInnes believed, that they had a really good chance of getting this done and getting him on the plane to Spain yesterday for pre-season training. Otherwise, he wouldn't have talked about it. So I think there's a real disappointment there that didn't happen. Reading between the lines, it doesn't look as if there's too much between what Lawrence Shankland wants and what Hearts seem to be offering. So you'd think there's always that chance. But I suppose it depends now on what other offers Shankland's got. I mean, we're told that there's offers there in England and abroad, but what kind of level, what kind of club, what kind of manager? Because as we've said on here many times since Derek McInnes took the job, it feels like a match made in heaven. No, Shankland teaming up with McInnes again to go and lead this kind of, maybe not a new era, but maybe a kind of new dawn at Hearts with a fresh investment and a kind of revamped squad, new manager. So it feels like a shame that deal's not getting done. But look, it's a massive decision for Shankland because he's 29. It's the last big contract of his career. He has to make the right decision for him and his family. They've between him and his representatives, they've obviously got a kind of figure in mind to sign on at Hearts, and so far it hasn't been met. But the longer it goes, it definitely feels like he's not going to be a Hearts player next season, which is a shame for us because we want to see him. Certainly want to see him in Scotland, scoring goals, doing well. Want to see him in the Scotland squad, especially World Cup qualifiers coming up. He's already, you'd imagine, a wee bit behind in terms of pre-season, so there'll be a bit of catch-up. But no, I mean, certainly, having spoke to Derek McInnes in the last couple of days, there's a real disappointment there that it hasn't happened, and I'm sure the Hearts fans are feeling that as well.
Do you think Rangers should throw their hat in the ring there, Scott?
100%. And I don't really understand why they're not. Listen, I've been banging on about Lawrence Shankland to Rangers for years since he was at Ayr United. He then goes on, and a few years later, he ended up basically probably too expensive for Rangers to go and get. But on a free transfer at 29, a guy that guarantees you goals in the Scottish Premiership, why wouldn't you? Especially if Rangers look as if they're about to lose two of their best strikers in Dessers and Egerman.
And you can pick them up for free.
I mean, is he the identikit of a Russell Martin striker in terms of how his teams want to play? Probably not. But we spoke to Stephen Naismith a couple of weeks ago on this very subject, and he agreed with that. He says there's probably other factors that Russell Martin, Kevin Thelwell and the recruitment team at Rangers are looking at in terms of fitting how this Rangers team is going to look. But I tell you, but Stephen Naismith said it, you can't put a price on guaranteed goals, irrespective of what style the guy might play in or whatever. He almost compared it to Chris Boyd back in the day. Alec McLeish going and getting Chris Boyd, just an absolute no-brainer at the time because he guaranteed you goals. Even when Walter Smith had him at Rangers, didn't always play him in big games, Old Firm or Europe or whatever, but domestically, guaranteed you goals. I think Shankland is the same. And I'm surprised Rangers haven't got him in the past. I probably thought the ship had sailed about a year ago in terms of Rangers go to try and get him. I think Clement should have went and tried to get him in the January when Rangers were going for the title and had got ahead of Celtic. They didn't do it. I think they brought in Fabio Silva off the top of my head, and obviously we know what happened. We know what happened next. But now with strikers going out the door, Shankland no signing at Hearts, why not?
Is that something, Keith, you think could perhaps be in Russell Martin's mind?
I'm not sure. I think Scott's hit the nail on the head there a little bit in terms of Russell Martin has a very specific style of play, and I'm not sure that I'll be honest, I'm not sure that Lawrence Shankland is mobile enough to play that position. What I do think, though, is that if Russell Martin's game plan is about high intensity, getting forward and getting balls into the penalty area, why wouldn't you want Lawrence Shankland in there because he's such a natural, composed finisher? I let Scott think this time last year I thought there was a real chance for Lawrence Shankland to get that move to Rangers. Clement, having previously decided against it, suddenly had a change of heart at the start of last summer, and I think he was pushing for that move to happen. I think Niels Cotton kiboshed it, to be perfectly honest with you. And Rangers at that point realised there was the potential to get in him at a point in time when he was running down the last year of his contract. And you wonder if, sliding doors moments, if that ship has now sailed. As Scott said, there was the moment in that January when it could have happened. I don't think Clement was sold on the whole idea of it. Change of heart by the summer. Niels Cotton didn't agree. And, you know, as a result of that, I remember we were on Hotline Live one night. There was actually a meeting at Ibrox that night where they were deciding their priorities for the transfer market. And I think the day after that they signed Robin Proper?
I think it was, aye.
Yeah, so, you know, what could have been Lon Shankland became Robin Proper. I wonder.
Sorry, I didn't
wonder why
laugh
Niels
at that.
Coppen's no longer on the job.
There you go. Right, before we finish, guys, have you been watching any of the Club World Cup, Keith? I know you weren't keen on it now. Scott, how about yourself?
I think I've said to you before, Dan, I was trying to get into it, but I don't know, the fact
I can't even find it.
I know, that's what I was about to say. Some games are on Channel 5, others you need to go and find on DAZN. Kick-off times aren't great. There's a lot of games that were really unappealing in the group stages. It's maybe getting a bit more appealing now. I watched Man City the other night. I thought they were brilliant.
I watched that, aye.
Really dangerous ahead of the Premier League season. When you look at the signings Man City have made, the signings Liverpool have made, and I just think what a title race that's going to be in England this year between those two. But no, I've not seen that much yet. I tried to get into it, but I was struggling for the start.
Man City, you'd say the signings there, Scott. Is it Tijani Reinders, the boy they've signed from AC Milan? Mm-hmm. He was the one linked with Rangers, wasn't he?
I think I'm right in saying Van Bronckhorst was trying to get him for Rangers.
I think that rings a bell.
It didn't happen for one reason or another. So who was the other Dutch midfielder Van Bronckhorst? Was it Veerman?
Joey Veerman, aye.
Yeah, Joey Veerman.
Ended up at PSV and ended up beating Rangers. It just shows you, recruitment, again, sliding doors, moments, different players. Reinders is obviously brilliant at Feyenoord, then goes on to AC Milan, was brilliant, and he's been into that Man City midfield alongside Rodri, and it looks pretty daunting for opposition teams, I think.
He was the one that jumped out at me the other night. I thought he was different class. I only bring it up because we're getting a few comments asking us about it. It's currently 4-0 to PSG against Lionel Messi's Inter Miami.
Well, I'm glad I'm not watching that. I would have found that a tough watch.
Aye.
Listen, I wouldn't though, because PSG they're the real ticket, aren't they? I really enjoyed them in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I did tip them to win the Champions League. I will hasten to add. But they're a great watch. But I would find it hard seeing Messi getting torn apart, or Messi's side getting torn apart. As I said to you, Daniel, I think I've watched about 15 minutes of this entire competition, and it was the first game when Inter Miami were playing, just because it's Lionel Messi, isn't it?
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm just not interested. It's a grotesque sort of a tournament, which is the brainchild of Gianni Infantino, who, I have to tell you, might even be a worse version of the previous guy in charge. He's almost like Sepp Blatter on steroids. This is not for me, I'm afraid.
Fish Fingers sums it up by saying Scottish football all the way.
Yeah,
I think that's a perfect note.
That's the right answer.
That's a perfect note for us to end on tonight, guys. Thank you so much for all the comments, as usual. We really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, when, of course, we will be discussing Keith's column on David Murray. I can't wait for that already, honestly. I'm absolutely buzzing for that. We hope you can join us then. Keith, Scott.
But doesn't let you down, Dan.
No pressure. Keith, Scott, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers, Daniel.
Cheers, Dan.
And hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.